Hollywood's golden age sold an illusion of effortless beauty. Studio publicity insisted that stars were born that way, while contracts often forbade admitting to cosmetic work. Behind closed doors, however, plastic surgery quietly reshaped faces, careers, and even identities. These procedures, advanced for their time, risky by today's standards, helped create the legends we still remember. Here are 15 secret, or long-denied, surgeries that permanently changed Golden Age stars. Judy Garland, nose refinement dental surgery. Before The Wizard of Oz, 1939, Judy Garland was still being molded by MGM into what the studio believed a leading lady should look like. Executives felt her natural features were too plain compared to other young actresses, so she was subjected to cosmetic changes early in her career. MGM reportedly ordered dental surgery to reshape and cap her teeth, refining her smile for close-up shots. There were also adjustments to her nose, less dramatic than later rhinoplasties but intended to soften and balance her face on camera. These physical changes did not happen in isolation. Garland was simultaneously placed on extreme diets and given amphetamines to suppress her appetite and barbiturates to help her sleep, creating a dangerous cycle of dependence. The surgeries became part of a larger pattern of studio control over her body and image. While they helped create the iconic Dorothy audiences adored, they also marked the beginning of lifelong struggles with health, self-image, and autonomy that followed Garland long after childhood stardom faded. Marilyn Monroe, chin implant nose job. Before she became Marilyn Monroe, Norma Jean Mortensen was an ambitious young actress struggling to stand out in a highly competitive studio system. Early in her career, she reportedly underwent a subtle rhinoplasty to refine the tip of her nose, making it more photogenic under harsh studio lighting. In addition, medical records and biographers suggest she received a small chin implant to balance her facial proportions, giving her profile a more sculpted appearance. These procedures were carefully understated, nothing meant to erase her individuality, but enough to elevate her into leading lady territory. The changes coincided with a deliberate image overhaul, platinum blonde hair, perfected makeup, and a persona crafted by 20th Century Fox. Unlike later eras, Monroe was never allowed to publicly acknowledge cosmetic surgery. Her beauty was marketed as entirely natural. While the surgeries helped launch one of the most iconic faces in history, they also highlight how tightly studios controlled women's appearances. Monroe's transformation shows how even Hollywood's ultimate symbol of natural beauty was, in reality, carefully engineered. Rita Hayworth, hairline electrolysis. Before she became one of Hollywood's most glamorous screen goddesses, Rita Hayworth was known as Margarita Cancino, a talented dancer with dark hair and a naturally low hairline inherited from her Spanish heritage. Columbia Pictures executives believed her look was too ethnic for mainstream stardom and demanded drastic changes. One of the most painful was extensive hairline electrolysis, a slow and agonizing process used to permanently remove hair. Over months, Hayworth endured repeated treatments to raise her hairline several inches, reshaping her forehead to fit Anglo-centric beauty ideals of the 1940s. The transformation was completed with dyed red hair, altered makeup, and a carefully constructed persona. While the results helped launch her into superstardom, earning her the title the Love Goddess, the cost was immense. Hayworth later spoke of the emotional toll of losing her original identity, famously saying that men went to bed with Gilda but woke up with her. Her surgery stands as a stark example of how Hollywood forced stars to physically erase parts of themselves to succeed. Joan Crawford, dental restructuring. Early in her career, Joan Crawford's ambition was matched only by her willingness to endure physical pain to achieve stardom. Studio executives believed her natural teeth and jawline lacked the strength and symmetry needed for dramatic close-ups, so Crawford reportedly underwent extensive dental restructuring. This included having several teeth capped, reshaped, and possibly repositioned, procedures that were far more invasive and painful in the 1920s and 1930s than they are today. Crawford was known for grinding her teeth constantly to strengthen her jaw muscles, reportedly chewing gum obsessively to exaggerate the sharp, angular look that became her trademark. The result was a powerful, almost intimidating facial structure that projected authority, intensity, and resilience on screen. That commanding presence helped define her image in films like Mildred Pierce and set her apart from softer-featured contemporaries. While the transformation contributed significantly to her success, it also symbolized the extreme physical sacrifices Golden Age stars were expected to make. Crawford's famous face was not just crafted, it was earned through pain, discipline, and relentless determination. Marlene Dietrich, cheek enhancements. Marlene Dietrich's face became one of the most striking and controlled images of Hollywood's golden age, defined by sharp cheekbones, hollowed contours, and an almost otherworldly elegance. While Dietrich never publicly confirmed cosmetic surgery, film historians and biographers have long suggested she may have used early cheek enhancements or fillers to accentuate her bone structure. At a time when such procedures were experimental and discreet, even subtle alterations could dramatically change how a face photographed under studio lights. More definitively, Dietrich was obsessive about lighting, camera angles, and facial presentation. She worked closely with cinematographers to carve shadows into her cheeks, sometimes insisting on lights being placed at extreme heights to exaggerate her contours. As she aged, she reportedly relied increasingly on cosmetic interventions and facial taping to maintain her sculpted appearance. The result was an image so controlled it became mythic. Dietrich's beauty was not effortless, it was engineered with precision, discipline, and a fierce determination to remain timeless in an industry terrified of aging. Bette Davis, eye lift procedures. Bette Davis built her career on intensity rather than conventional beauty, with eyes so expressive they became her trademark. As she aged in an industry openly hostile to older actresses, Davis reportedly underwent eye-related cosmetic procedures, including an eyelid lift, to counter drooping lids that threatened to limit her range on camera. Unlike many contemporaries, her goal was not to appear youthful or delicate, but to preserve the sharp, commanding gaze audiences associated with her performances. Davis famously resisted studio pressure to soften her features or conform to glamorous ideals, often clashing with executives over roles and appearance. The procedures were practical rather than transformative, allowing her to continue working in close-ups and emotionally demanding roles well into middle age. Even after surgery, Davis refused heavy retouching and openly criticized Hollywood's obsession with youth. Her choice reflects a calculated balance between defiance and survival. The work helped extend her career, proving that talent and presence could still command the screen, even as Hollywood tried to look away from aging women. Clark Gable, before Clark Gable became known as the King of Hollywood, his career prospects were far from certain. Early studio screen tests revealed a rugged charisma, but executives fixated on what they considered a flaw, his noticeably protruding ears. At a time when leading men were expected to embody flawless masculinity, MGM reportedly insisted Gable undergo corrective ear surgery, a procedure now known as otoplasty. The operation pinned his ears closer to his head, subtly reshaping his profile without altering his rough-hewn appeal. The change was small but significant. After the surgery, Gable was no longer cast as eccentric or secondary characters and began receiving romantic leading roles. His new image balanced strength with refinement, making him more palatable to mainstream audiences. Unlike many actresses, Gable's surgery was never publicly discussed, reinforcing the myth that male stars were naturally perfect. The procedure helped transform him from a struggling actor into a box office titan, proving that even Hollywood's most iconic men were quietly reshaped to fit studio ideals. Lucille Ball, early facial cosmetic work. Lucille Ball's rise to television superstardom came with a new kind of scrutiny that film actresses of the 1930s rarely faced: the unforgiving close-up. As television became more popular in the late 1940s and early 1950s, Ball understood that exaggerated expressions and high-definition cameras required a more carefully maintained appearance. Unlike many Golden Age stars, she later spoke candidly about using cosmetic procedures to remain competitive, particularly facial work designed to tighten skin and refine features rather than dramatically alter them. Ball's approach was pragmatic, not vain. She viewed cosmetic surgery as professional maintenance, no different from vocal training or rehearsal. These early procedures helped preserve her expressive face while allowing her to age more slowly on screen during the long run of I Love Lucy. Importantly, Ball refused to chase youth at the expense of character, her comedy relied on flexibility and movement, not frozen perfection. Her openness about cosmetic work was rare for the era and quietly challenged Hollywood's insistence that beauty be effortless, proving that longevity, especially for women, often required adaptation, honesty, and strategic self-preservation.